So guys, we are going to create something using the previous setup just to simulate a simple disintegration. So that's chapter 6. Okay, we are going to use a similar setup as the previous one, but maybe we are going to use this one in a different way. So test geometry, let's use crack again. So let's go there, the P, and let's go to scale it to maybe a little bit more, something like that. Okay, that's actual the framing, but we are going to use just frame 1, so delete channel. So you see that's not animated. Okay, let's stop it. We go to convert as polygon to poly, and then let's use a null point. This one is out crack. Okay, so let's go, the icon is the right one, let's go with a different color. Nice, let's go in the particles, but this time we go to create something different. So we can create a copy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, so sorry, that's the sparks and that's not active. And the second one is particles disintegrate. And let's go to see better what's going on. So merge, this time is merge crack, and we need to pick obviously the crack mesh. Okay, so you see that this one is going in the right way. Let's go to check the animation. So at the beginning we have this one that's frame 0. Let's go up, so it is something like that. Okay, so let's go there. Okay, we don't need the sphere because it's just based on the animation, so that's what we have actually. Okay, and maybe we can say that the position is essentially, let's say, over the y-axis, the x-axis. This is too much. Okay, so we go to create a key there, and then we have a key at this frame, and we see that this one is 0. We go to create a key, and then it can go up in this way. By the way, we don't need to create the coming back, so we can remove some keys. So we can remove this one, and we can do the same for the other things. So we have the sphere moving in this way. We need to go back to the sphere because we are going to create some little differences. So let's say that this one is bigger and we have no animation there, so right mouse button, delete. So inside the disintegrate, that's the animation, and this one, let's see if it works. We have to go back there in the crack, add shader is removed, back there, and this one is black. So for the moment it is working. So let's move forward for the next step. So we are emitting the particles, and that's nice. By the way, I like to create a boolean. So we need to use this one, and the subtraction is, we can use this one, and the subtraction is with this one. Okay, so let's see if everything is working nicely. Let's remove this one, and we have okay, it was just something about the screen, so it's not a problem, and it's working perfectly. So you see that we have this part of the mesh that is going to be removed. So we have the boolean, then we go to fix the normal. Okay, so everything is going to works in the right way. We say to remove the other if there is something bad with the previous one, and let's go to have a color. And we say that this one is essentially maybe bluish. Okay. So we see the color where we have the face that are created. Okay, there is something wrong with the visualization, but now it works in the perfect way. So let's say that this one is done in this color, so it is more simple to be checked. So here we have color bool mesh. Okay, so we are removing stuff all around. By the way, we can do something better. We can have, for example, a mountain over there, so we have some kind of variation, and we can obviously the boolean operation needs to be redone. Let's double check how it is going. Let's do this one in the mesh we had at the beginning. So let's go for a mountain, and the element size will be more little, the amount is lower, and we'll have maybe a little bit more detail. Okay, so you see that's more precise than before, and here the scaling is lower. So everything should be better than before. It's not so precise, you know, so it's better than the previous version. So if we go back there, we should have this one working in the right way. Okay, let's go for example there. Okay, you see it is working perfectly. So it's less precise than before, so it's a little bit better. So that's simple enough. On the other side we have the color transfer, so we know where we are moving. We can essentially say that this area is lower than before, so that's the area where we have the particles. So you see that the particles are scattered there, and you know, maybe let's go back there, maybe we can have a little bit less space there too. So we have the scatter points there, we have the normal, and this one is not needed, I think. Okay, that's nice enough. Okay, so if we go there, we have this kind of normal. This one can be removed, and then we are going to convert this one as speed, and then we can go inside the particles. We don't need the pop replicate. We don't need the collision with the ground. So back inside there, we go to reset the simulation and back inside. So just for a moment, let's set to off this one. This one will be removed, and let's see what's going on. We have the collision, and that's right, but we say that when we have the collision, the particles will stop. Okay, so it is working. By the way, let's go there, and about the let's see what's going on there about the speed. Okay, let's try with 1. It is still too much. Let's try with 0, 1. And the variance is maybe, let's try with a really low amount there. Okay, you see it's really slow. Okay, so particles are essentially falling down. I like to have back the wind, but this time we go to minus z, so this one is 0, and let's go for minus z. Okay, it is working, so let's try with 5. Let's go back to have the drag. And let's remove just for a moment the gravity. So you see the particles are flying away, and it is essentially not good in this way, because you know the particles are essentially flying away with no possibility to stop it. So let's say that the gravity is there, but maybe we got to have a higher wind, because we are trying to... Okay, I don't like this way, so let's go to have something not realistic, but we go for a lower gravity, because you are obviously free to do stuff like that. So you see, in this way particles are moving around and then are flying down. Okay, so now it is playing in a better way. So we have the particles emitted, and then they are falling down. I like to have a little bit more chaos. We can go lower with the scaling. Okay, so you see that the particles are going away. Let's go to see this one as pixel is too much. Let's go back to points. Okay, and let's go back to see how much particles. So here in the bird, we go to have, you see, a higher value of particles. The other are going away, and then they are dying. If you like to have it still there, you can say, for example, one dot up there, and for 20 seconds we'll have the particles over the ground. This way it's starting to work in a better way. We can have there a pop color. We get to have a color similar to what we are going to simulate, so something like that. Okay, so you see that we have all the particles. Back in the visualization, if we have more particles, we can try to have points, pixel, because you know it is starting to be more realistic. So back in the scatter points, let's say that we have an higher value for the scattering. So you see that we have a lot of points there. Okay, you see that we have a lot of points now. And it means that if we go there in the particles, we can have a higher number of particles. Let's try to have a really high number. Here we can go higher. Okay, you see that now we have a lot of particles going away. Nice. It's really fast, so if you like you can have a slower simulation, by the way. What it means, actually we have this one, so we have the particles. Now here we have a random scale, and that's nice. It's not a problem, but we have to see later if it is working nicely or not. So let's go to have a merge, and actually we have our Boolean mesh, and we have this one. So what we see is you see particles that are moving away and this disappearing. Okay, problem is that now that's chapter 6. Now we have the meshes are essentially points, so we are talking about sphere, and that's not what we like to have. So we have to find something different to be used. So let's go to create something more readable. So that's the meshes origin. Okay, here we have the disintegrate. So here we have disintegrate, and we go to have a different color. So this part is essentially the Boolean, and we go to have a different color also there. So it's a little bit more readable, you know, it's a little bit more simple to understand what's going on there. So we created everything. We have the random scale there, we have this one. So it will be nice to say how the particles need to be rendered, because actually we have a lot of points and that's not enough. If we go there and we go to change the material, because actually let's call it disintegrate, we have the emission, but obviously we don't need the emission. This one needs to be black, and we have essentially the color. So that's the only stuff we are going to take care. In the output we can remove the quality there. We can go back to 3 and 3, so it will be faster, and we can see what's going on in the render view. So you see that's what we have. Motion blur is not bad. We can remove it just to see better, in a better way, the stuff we are removing there. But the problem is that essentially we have this kind of meshes there, and it's not so nice. But if you like, we can have a really strange effects. I mean, we can go there, for example, and you see that we have different scaling. By the way, we can say, okay, let's go there, and about the scaling, let's say that the minimum is 0.05 and the maximum maybe is 1. If we go inside the render, I had a crash, it's not a problem. Let's go to see a preview. Now the particles are smaller than before, so it should work in a better way. By the way, we can do something more interesting. We can, okay, it is working. So, for example, in this case, if you are going to create something like sandy effects as we done in the past, we can imagine to do something like that. So let's stop this one. Let's go in the material, and here we say that we have essentially a lower specularity with an higher roughness, and that's about the simulation, the color. In the object we go there, and let's go to see how we are transferring the stuff. Let's say that the area is lower and we have a blended area there. So here we have the scattering. We go for something higher, maybe still higher, so a really huge amount of points. And then let's go there, and we say to have more particles. So we are talking about a really huge amount of particles. But I like to make, let's double check. Okay, let's see with a display pixel. Okay, it is not bad. By the way, let's see if we go to whole points. Okay, it is working in a better way. Control S, render view, and render again. We should have more points than before. Okay, that's what we are doing here. You know, that's the amount of particles we are creating. So let's try to see when we are at the merge, because here we have the random scaling, so we'll have a different scaling than before. And you see that now it is essentially behaving in the right way. We can have another small force inside, so here let's go to have another pop force. So this one is connected there, and this one is a turbulence, or maybe okay, let's go in this way, and we say that the amplitude will have no wind. So let's remove this one. Okay, we can go back to see what's going on. Okay, let's say that the swirl scale is really low. And let's go lower. And we'll try to have an higher dragging. let's go to see the speed. Let's go to have less speed emission. So let's say that we have no speed. Let's set to 0, 0, and 0. Okay, we have just, you see the particles falling down. Let's go back to have this one. Okay, so let's say to have an higher force. Okay, you see that's really sandy effects with an higher drag. Let's go back to have the wind. Okay, that's really cool. Nice. Okay, back to the simulation there. Okay. You know, obviously that's more complex than the other stuff we simulated before. And we have to reset the simulation, then we have to wait back to stay at the right frame and lock. Ctrl S and render view. Okay, you see that nice because we don't see the connection between the Boolean and where we have particles, because we have a lot of particles, so that's really nice. Essentially, let's go back here, and inside the particle system we can just take care about this turbulence. Maybe let's go higher, so go back there and then back to 17. Okay, you see that we have more cows, maybe also 5, so back there. Okay, that's really chaotic, so again there, back there, and render and see the differences. Okay, you see that's really nice. Okay, so we can add another interesting thing. So let's go back. First of all, we can have, actually we have points, so we are rendering everything with some tiny sphere, but if we like, let's say that there we have a null point to the particles, so we can have, or maybe we can connect this one there. Okay, so let's say that this one is the out particles. Color, let's go with a new color. Okay, so here we have the particles, here we have the Boolean, and we can go to create some instancing. So let's go back there and say that we have less particles in the we are using log points, it's right, so let's go back to the scatter points. And let's say that we have 10 times less particles. So what we have now is, let's go at 17. Okay, that's the actual result. Obviously we can have more mountain effects there if needed, it's not a problem. Let's go to use a copy to points. Copy to points. And we say that we like to use this one, and then let's go to have a sphere, Let's go for a really small scale. Let's call it the breeze. A little bit bigger so we see how it's looking. And let's go with polygon. Let's say 10. And let's go with the mountain. We are talking about really small stuff, so we don't need so much detail. It's obviously too much there. We need to go with a lower scale, and this one too is too high. Okay, and then if we go there in the copy to points, pack instance, so let's go to see what we have there. Okay, we have all these teeny points. Let's go in the camera. If we go to render, we should see just these teeny points. And you see that's the result. We can have a little smaller scale for the sphere, so you see it's more like teeny dots. If needed, we can have also a random rotation. Actually, we have just a random scale, you know, we can do something like that, but it is not needed. So you can decide, for example, to have this one. So here we can say that's with a null point. That's the breeze. So if needed, you can use this one to be merged there. We have the pack, so it's not so slow to do stuff like that. So we can go back to 10 times more particles. It needs just a little bit of time to simulate again everything, and you see that that's what it is doing. So let's stop. Let's go back, and let's go back to 17. So we are sure that the simulation is the right one. So again, generation, so we can understand if we need a little bit more particles, because we are creating 1 millionth and half particles in the area where we are moving with our sphere. So quality is not bad. Maybe we can need to have still a little bit more particles, because now the scaling, you know, is really low, so we can create something that is really sandy. So back there, and let's say that there we have 3 millionth and half particles. So it should be nice to have maybe a cache saver, because you know it is going to be heavy to be simulated. It is not so slow, but it needs a little bit of time. So rendering is going, so let's see how it is looking. I think that's not bad. It is giving us a really nice effects. Maybe we can take care about the illumination using a texture. So I'm going to pick something from another course. Let's say to use no images. Let's go with this one. And then we can have an higher light intensity. So that's the real illumination done with this texture. So we have a really nice volume there. I mean, it is working really nicely. Obviously, if you like, you can have still more particles to have something really, really complex. By the way, let's go back there, and let's say that we are going to merge this one with this one. So let's remove this connection with the y-axis and let's go to connect this one. So we can have back this render. If we go to render now, we have the mesh and we have also the particles flying away. So that's really nice too. And we can see how it works with a motion blur. Okay, that's rendering. I'm using the mouse just to see in a better way where we are with the particles, just to see how this is moving forward. But you see, we see no connection, so that's really nice. Okay, let's try to see what's going on if we go to use also the motion blur. To have also the motion blur, we need a little bit higher quality because we know that we need an higher pixel sampling. So let's go back to add motion blur and we can see the result. So it is nice. I have to say that it's really nice, but maybe I prefer to have less motion blur because the particles are moving really fast. That's the problem. So to have something like that, we can stop this one. Okay, stop. Let's save the snap. And then we can change the speed. To change just the speed, we can go back to our particles and there. We can change the speed there. So let's use an attribute wrangle. Okay. Less velocity. Okay. We have the velocity. Let's go to search for it. Okay, we have the velocity there. And we can say that the velocity, so at v is multiply equal 0.5. So we have half speed. So it is multiplying the actual speed for 0.5. And it should works. Okay, we have half. You can see how it is looking there. You see that it is using half speed as before. So in this way we'll have a lower speed. We can see the detail there. So it's generating the animation, the rendering. So we'll have a lower motion blur amount. And that's nice because in this way we can have a better rendering quality, Okay, you see that that's less than before. And again, if you don't like in this way, you can always go back there and, for example, you can promote this value if needed. By the way, let's set to off. We can just maybe this time it's just a value, so we can use in this way. It's not a problem. So let's see, that's 0, for example, 0.44. If we have this one, it is 0.11. So if we go to render, it will be less than before, and maybe that's the perfect way to use it. Because again, the animation is done in 40 frames, so that's really simple, really fast. We have the object moving down and removing the entire crack mesh. It is going, so you see that it's moving slower than before, so we have less motion blur. Okay, so let's go back to see the entire mesh. we can use the shift key to select this area. Okay, let's go to see the area where the particles are flying away. We should have more motion blur in some areas and less motion blur in other areas. So we should have a really nice effects. By the way, let's remove the progressive so we see the final rendering with the buckets. Let's wait just some seconds to have it. So that's a really nice effects. You know, we see something there because we have not so much particles. So you have two possibilities. One is adding more particles, for example, just in this area. So you can use the selection we done before, you can add the new particles there, and then you can merge with the other. That's a simple way to do it. Or in case you can for example add more particles and use a lower scale. So I mean, we can make a test, so Ctrl S. Let's go back there. Okay, we can say, okay, let's go in the scatter points and say we have 6 millions and half particles for each frame. Okay, maybe more. Let's try with 8 million particles. Then we need a little bit slower scale, so let's say that the smallest one is maybe 75 and this one is maybe 4. Then let's go back there. In this case, you know, we have a lot of particles. You can imagine, for example, to have a file cache there. So you are exporting the particles, then you are caching the breeze particles. In this way you can save the particles and then you continue moving forward in this simulation. By the way, we can go at frame 17. We'll have a lot of more particles, so it takes just a little bit to simulate, and then we can go to see what's going on inside the rendering. So let's create a new snap. You see that there you have the snap we are saving, and let's go to render again. Okay, so you see that now it is working nicely. I made a mistake there about the scaling because it was in the max 0.07, so it was really big. And you see that it's starting to play in the right way, and obviously if you have more and more particles it will works in a better way. By the way, that's nice enough, I think. Okay, so let's go just for a moment to cache everything. Let's say that we save from there, and we are going to save for 254 frames. So save to disk. Now it's rendering the entire simulation. So we have, for example, 113 frames. Let's stop the cooking. Okay, that's an error. We have no problem with this kind of error. So let's say that we have this one. Let's see the particles. You see that we are loading particles from the HD. Sorry. So let's see what's going on. You see that we have the particles flying away, and we have everything, because you see that we have the particles that are gone. Let's try to see the last frame. That's okay. So let's say that our frame, the last frame, is 111, 110. So I like to see, for example, there, what do we have at frame 50? That's before. I like to go some frames before. We can have also less particles working with something like that. It is so small that we have no possibility to see differences when we go to change something like that. So let's go to render now. So that's really nice. You see here is really well, we have really nice looking shadows, and we have the cloud, the dust cloud flying away. So, that's working really nice. So now it is time to render a preview so you can see how it is looking, and then that's all for this chapter. So guys, rendering is done. We can check with the image view from side effects. I just rendered something around not so much frame, 50, around 60, so 57. But that's the most important part for this animation, because it's just the disintegration. So let's see in the play, and you see that it works perfectly. That's amazing. Really amazing. We can see step by step. You see how it works. Obviously, you can take care about it to make something more complex, but that's a really simple setup to create something like that. And we are not working so much over rendering and other stuff, so I think that's really nice. If you have time and if you like to play with a pyro, you can also add a little bit of smoke over it to have more interesting effects. By the way, I really love it. It's really nice, and the setup is really simple. Okay, so guys, let's move to the next chapter. We have to start playing with a really nice setup for our final project.